Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to A/B testing. We're here.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Bianca.
How's it going?
We're back. Did you do any travel? Did you get out of Atlanta?
I actually did not. I'm gonna do that for Christmas.
Okay.
But yeah, I did get to hang out with family, which is always like delightful. So I am happy with that. Lots of time with just like newborn babies, which is always a fun time. Babies are cool.
Babies are great.
Yeah.
And babies around family is even better. I went out to Arizona where all my family met up, and I had almost my entire family on both sides, and so fairly big. But the best part was just that we've got the baby in the family, and so having a 2-year-old that's just like doted on by one person after the next. She was having such a good time, and I didn't have to pay attention to her, and it was great.
Oh yeah, it's always funny because then it's like you get so used to the baby, and I'm like, do we have to? I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I have to give her back to her parents. I guess. But yes, we are here, A/B testing. Hello, we have new stream friends in chat.
Yes.
We're very excited. So hi to all of y'all. Hi to all our stream friends. Last week we had a good little blast with our friend Craig. Well, we're definitely there are no surprises today. Just new faces.
Yes.
But yes, we definitely should at some point try to actually get it to work. But even before we get started on that, what are you drinking today? What's the meal situation?
It's my same thing. We just got back, so I've got very little food in my house. I literally just had like rice with seasoning on top, and then I got my food tea, my favorite tea here. It's the food tea. I think I've said this before. It's the one that's inoculated with golden flour, so it's like a fermented molded tea, which sounds weird but tastes beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Very, very important. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on Hydration Central these days. I have gotten back into working out a bit more intensely. So definitely lots of hydration. I use these Nectar, not sponsored. Hashtag not sponsored. Nectar hydration packets. They're great. So yeah, it's I'm feeling good. Definitely an adjustment though, getting back into the swing of things. So
I miss it. It's been hard. If anyone else has children, they know it's hard to get to do all the things. But so what are we going to talk about today? So today we've got, in a few moments, we'll bring on our newest member of our team, Andrew. So he'll be coming up in a few minutes. We're going to learn a little bit more about him. We're going to talk about some kind of our topic of the day, kind of like we have with news, just an idea that we're going to discuss. And then he is also going to do a track jacket build. So we've got all that coming up for you in just a moment here. But yeah, I'm excited. Andrew's been a really fun addition to the team.
how long has Andrew been here? 2 weeks? 1 week?
I think 2 weeks. I think he spent because Andrew's in Canada, I think he spent all of Thanksgiving connecting with all of our European teammates because no one from the US was here. So
that's real.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to give a special shout out to someone who just popped into chat, Stephen Nick, because unrelated to all of this, Stephen helped me with something the other day, and I was very appreciative. So thank you, Stephen. Extra shout out, extra love for you. We love that. So I think in a moment here, we'll bring in Andrew. I'm seeing backstage that his camera looks like it's not on him, so we'll give him one moment to... Oh, okay, that's what he wants? Okay, great. Sorry, I probably ruined the surprise. Well, welcome, Andrew.
Oh, hello there. Nice to see you. It was a thing. I was gonna make it really fun. It's all right though. You know what?
You gotta. I ruined surprises apparently because it happened when we had Craig on last week, and I was like, I don't know what's happening now, and I had to switch in my head. Andrew, you could have been like, hey, bring me up. But I see a blank camera. I don't know what to do. I don't know if you're taking, making sure you're psyching yourself up behind the scenes. I don't know.
I mean, I was doing a little bit of that. I mean, I'm pretty pumped to be on here with y'all. So
Yeah.
I needed to I definitely was doing a little bit of getting in the zone.
Do we want to try it again?
Do you want to try again? Here.
Hold on.
Let's run it back.
Okay.
Okay, wow.
Let's start this over. So we're so excited. In a moment, we're going to have our newest teammate, Andrew, all the way from Vancouver Island in Western Canada, joining us. So welcome, Andrew. Andrew.
Oh, hello there. How's it going, Alex? How's it going, Bianca?
Oh, hi, Andrew.
Hi. See, even
We got there.
new locations.
We got there.
We got it.
We went
I
from
love
the
it.
side.
I love this.
There you go.
No, this is great. You just fly in, so you don't. Who needs? Yeah, I love it. Andrew, we are very excited to have you on. Also very excited to just have you as a teammate. This is authentic excitement. I promise you. It's great. So Andrew, if you can give us kind of like, actually, just before we even kind of jump into it, so you're going to be like, while Andrew's answering our questions and stuff, what is it? Like, who are you? Like, who's on the screen with us?
That's like a dangerous question. Okay, so I did do this for like my LinkedIn profile recently, and I found like 3 words. What is it? Hold on. I now need to like go to my LinkedIn profile to figure out what my words were. What did I decide that I was? All right.
Okay.
Creating with technology, engaging with education, and connecting with community. That I would say is like me. That is definitely me in like 3 bullet points.
I love it. And you're also a new Twilion.
I am.
I love it. I'm excited. So we typically have like our news of the day, and we would bring news topics, but we switched it up because why not? But today's topic is more so we're going to have just like an open topic. Chat, feel free to kind of add your 2 cents to this too, but was just kind of seeing this conversation floating around of how like we've become, by pushing so many people into STEM, like we've become less empathetic, less well-rounded, right? So I guess maybe the question is like, do we feel like this obsession with like going very deep into STEM, is that making us like less well-rounded as human beings? And I don't think it's one or the other, but I do also wonder like, what can we sprinkle, right? I think of it as like a dish, right? Maybe we had a lot of STEM. How do we balance out the flavors, right? So yeah, I'm just kind of curious folks' thoughts about these things.
I'm going to preface this too with, I think we're an interesting group to be having this conversation, because we are all people in STEM fields whose job it is to be empathetic and reach out and talk, interact with people.
Ooh, yes,
so
true.
It's definitely a unique set of skills. I've been at roles where I started as a coder and very quickly am doing other things because I can do the other things that people couldn't, but I was, I don't know, maybe I was the best coder ever and I just didn't give myself a chance, but I always thought I was like a middling coder. I was fine. I was good enough. But like, I think we're a particularly interesting group because we're in a role where we can and we do bridge those gaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got lots of thoughts on this. So by the way, chat, if you have no idea who I am, those bullet points will make absolutely no sense. So my background is actually in teaching. So I started, not in teaching, like STEM outreach. So I kind of started in the tech industry in this world of like bringing folks from like kindergarten through university into the world of STEM, and then have been lucky to kind of be able to like follow that thread and that pathway here to Twilio and kind of be doing this stuff. But I also have my teaching degree is in like middle school, high school science. And then my master's degree was in building an ed tech platform to support assessment in a STEM-based inquiry high school, if that all tracks together. So I've met
what is a STEM-based inquiry high school? Is that where it's like STEM-based high school where they kind of like build their own projects and it's like very student-driven? Is that what it means by like inquiry?
Yeah, so like I kind of put inquiry as you're doing, like if you've ever done grad school work of like going and you're kind of like you're researching things you're excited about, you go and do that, but you're doing it when you're like 15.
Cool.
And with a few more guide rails in there too, but yeah.
So then that begs a great question. You have a really great resource, or you have a really great experience in all these things. I assume you were working with youths, you know,
The
youths, the youths. Did you find that because they were in STEM, there was a lack of some of the more soft skills that that a lot of times do build success?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one of my first, my first actual connection with the tech industry was I built a coding boot camp to kind of recruit people to come into the university, into engineering programs. And I remember I went and I must have met with like 20 CEOs in town. And I was like, okay, what are like the top like technical skills that you're looking for people to have when they're coming in? And every single one of these people was like, we can teach the hard skills, the technical skills, focus on like how they communicate with each other, how they like plan things out, how they think outside of the box, but really like empathizing, like focus so much on like soft skills. I've heard them like defined as like professional skills, or what's the other one? Like anyways, but yeah, that whole idea. And so what was interesting is I found that a lot of the people that were coming in when they were that young, they hadn't kind of fallen into they didn't know that they didn't have the people skills yet. So like they were coming in kind of open to whatever experience and not necessarily having to like learn the soft skills. It was more like learning how to apply their soft skills in a new environment.
That makes sense. It's such a back and forth, because like I tell, so like I've had experiences where like the fact that I have soft skills made grad school way easier for me. Like I was the one always giving presentations. This is going to sound braggy, but I promise it's not. When I was doing my thesis for my master's, I got really high marks because I could tell the story really well, not because I did a lot of work. In fact, I probably did less work than any of my peers, but I could tell the story so well that everyone thought that it felt like a very well completed rounded thing. And it's amazing how much that storytelling can do it. And it's one of those things, like I'm really grateful that I had a professor in grad school who this should have been the headiest class we had. It was advances in robotic learning. It was about how like the most advanced papers you could find, but really it was a class about how to give a good presentation and how to tell a story. And like, I think I think some people are missing that. And it's a balance. Like, how do you teach enough of the hard skills that they can get started really quickly, but also, it's all the other things that can really lead to growth
100%
in a role.
So I do have a thing though, which is like, do we do ourselves a disservice by calling it soft skills, right? Like, do we by telling people, interacting with people, being in conversation with people, that makes things kind of like lesser than? And I feel like that aspect of just like the devaluing of the people aspect, right? Like, does that, even the language that is used, have we created that? Like, I don't know. I wonder the role of language, even in how we're like, interacting with people is a nice to have. It's just a drizzle on top.
It's soft, not hard. Yeah.
Yeah, like rather than it being like, because again, who's gonna want to be like, well, I'm gonna do all the soft skills, and like that's not
totally.
I always think of that guy in Office Space who's like, they're like, what do you do here? He's like, I'm a people person, like yelling. Like, that's what I always think of. Yeah. You're right though. That makes a lot of sense. Like, how do you rebrand these skills so that they have more value? I think you've got this, Andrew.
I do. I'm gonna like interrupt. I'm so excited to be here, and y'all just stop me. Just mute me, because I'm just gonna I'm gonna nerd out over all of this stuff with you.
We can also just do this. Oh, that was on me. Sorry, I meant to do it on Andrew.
No, keep us on here.
We could also just do this and just not. I'm kidding. We got all sorts of things we can do. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know if I can name things on the stream, like places that I saw this, but the best definition that I've heard, or the best rebranding, is core skills. core skills. And I've spoken, it was a conference and then it became kind of like a meetup, but it's like an online community where the entire thing is core skills for the tech industry. And so it was all these like, it was like 30-minute talks on subjects ranging from like negotiating your salary to like, I did a talk on how to learn smarter, not harder, like using some educational theory to like speed up the learning process. And other people just did it on like how to have a conversation with your direct reports and stuff like that. Ooh, look at that. But I can't take credit for this. Can I name the place that I heard this? No, I'm not like.
Yeah, you can name it. It's where we want to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, so this is, if you Google "you got this," and I think it's like yougottthis.io. It's like a learning hub on core skills. The project has ended, but the content library is still there. So like you can go and check out all the content that's been produced there. But it's really great, and I feel like it's one of the best. Core skills is one of the best redefinitions that I've heard of that term. Because you're absolutely right, Bianca. Like soft skills undersells the thing that people care more about than if you are really technically talented.
So if we're gonna, I was like, if we're gonna land the conversation, right? When we think about kind of even the importance of these kind of, if we're thinking about core skills, right? Like how are we seeing core skills fitting into this like world that we exist in, right? Like, especially, we have a bunch of tools that like tell you how, communicate for you. How are we thinking about like just the role of these, like, why is it important? Why do we feel like maybe it's not as important? But I'm just kind of curious, just like the perspectives around the role that these core skills play for this world that we're building and this world that we're kind of designing.
I'm just like, I just want to see if I'm getting what you're dropping here, which is, does AI and the way that we're interacting with AI affect it? Is that what you're trying to ask about? Like, is it like, what's the future when it's my AI communicating with your AI? Or are you just saying like, or was this like a different direction? I just want to make sure I'm going in the weird mind space for this one.
I think it could go anywhere. I think we are at an inflection point on how we learn, how we build, and we can let our poor habits build the future for us. And so clearly I have a point of view on this. So we can let our habits build the future for us, or we can kind of be a bit more intentional. So I think I'm wondering kind of if we're intentionally building a society, or we're intentionally building how we learn, are we okay with folks being like, no core skills? And again, it could be that things need to be tweaked up a little bit, but I think maybe that for me is just like, how are we intentionally building? And do we need to intentionally build, or are we satisfied as a society?
So you talked about STEM at the top of the show. So I had this amazing science methods professor in university, and he's been in the field since before STEM was a term that you used. And I could get into the history of why we use STEM and where that all came from, but not for this show. But there's a thing that he actually sold as a better way, instead of being focused on just like the hard skills, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math, which by the way is what STEM stands for, if you didn't know. He had another acronym, which was STSE. And it stood for science, technology, society, and the environment. And so the concept, and you could, if you Google that, there's like a Wikipedia article about, or like lots of articles about this, but the concept there was like everything that you're doing in science and technology should have a focus on like, how does this benefit society? And how does it like benefit the world in a really meaningful way? And he actually said he disliked STEM as a concept, having been a science educator for so long. And he was like, this is the way that we should do it. And it's fallen out of favor because STEM has become so popular. And I think STEAM, like, cause that's a new term that's come in, especially in like with art, is kind of getting there, but like, it kind of just ends up with people kind of doing arts and crafts or like painting something first. And like the society and the environment is like, okay, we are going to focus on like people and the world, not just on like, we can do cool things with technology.
I actually really like that. And I think it adds some of the like, why are we here back into it? Because with STEM or even STEAM, it's like, why you're here. It's like, oh, you're creating something, but like what and why, right? There's not a lot of why. So I actually really appreciate that adds a little bit more of the like the why back into things. And I wish we had more of that. And I like that. Maybe it was STES, right? Science, Technology, Environment, Society.
Science, Technology, Society, and Environment Education. So if you just look up like STSE.
STSE.
Yeah,
No,
STSE.
I really like that. I think also just like the thing about like science, it's very cut and dry, right? Like it's like we have the answers, right? Like if you put the wrong code in, it's not gonna work, okay? But people aren't like that. Society isn't like that. And you're going to have to solve problems in ways that aren't very clearly defined. And I think like even this aspect of just like if the only way you're learning is how to truly game things or how do I optimize this just certain paths and it's very clearly defined, you're just gonna forget that like, wait, the world is actually not like that. Like people are so unpredictable. It's a little scary actually. Like people are unpredictable. Sometimes you're like, wait, what did you just say? Like how are we responding? So I think even just the ability to kind of think outside of these predefined methods, ways of thinking. And then also I think the last part I would say is that it's kind of empowering to know that like, yes, these folks before you define these systems, but like, how do you feel empowered to create new ones? How do you feel empowered to even kind of question the build, right? Do you just need to go to grad school to be able to question things? Or can you just invite that energy of just like thinking, pondering, not assuming that like, this is it. So I think there's some layers here.
So somebody once, one of the best things that this professor was amazing. And I would give him a shout out every day of the week. But he actually, and maybe it wasn't him that said this, science should be a verb, not a noun. And we consider science to be a noun. Like we're like, this is science. Right? It's like this fact that we determined was science, but science is a process. It's a verb. It's an action. It's a thing you do. And so, yeah, that's kind of the piece that I think it ties into so much what you're saying, Bianca. Like, absolutely. Yeah, it's so funny too, right? Because you do think like, why do you have to go to grad school? That's why I love the inquiry-based learning model, because like you should be able to question things earlier. And the interesting thing is like the whole thing is about learning how to ask questions when you're younger. So then maybe you don't need to go and spend like $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 at a university to decide what you want to do with your life, or to figure out how to be like a more well-rounded person. And just like other things, like there's some folks that are on this chat. So like Roxy is also in the education space. And so I feel like also the tech industry today is attracting a lot more people with like this mindset. I mean, Alex, you and I have had conversations. Bianca, I had this like super inspiring conversation with you last week. And we were just like, the level of excitement that came out of that chat, I genuinely was like, this is the place that I need to be. Because these are the people that are thinking about education in the right way for the world, the way that it's going right now.
Yeah. It's kind of
hashtag not sponsored. We did not.
Wait, actually, this is actually sponsored by us, Bianca. This is a Twilio our team stream. So like,
these are good points.
Not scripted. Okay. Hashtag not scripted. There we go.
Yes.
We didn't tell him. We didn't pay Andrew to say that, but we appreciate it. And this is sponsored by Twilio. Welcome. It is SpawnCon.
Okay. I feel like we got a little taste of like the Andrew thinking of the let's dive a little bit deeper. Let's get to know Andrew a little bit more even before we get a build. Okay, so you're originally from I know Alex told me where you're from, but I feel like you could you could tell where you're from too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So based in Canada, originally on the East Coast, so Nova Scotia, which is almost as far east as you can go, and then moved to Ontario, which is kind of more center of the country, which is like near Ottawa or Toronto, and then about 10 years ago moved to Victoria, and have been here since. And Victoria is, if you don't know Canada at all, it is like you go as far west as you can, and then you hit the ocean, and you're like, I can't go any further. And then you get on a ferry, and you keep going, and then you hit a big piece of land, and you're like, is this the end? And it is, in fact, the end. And that is where I am. I'm at the end of the country.
If anyone's seen the show Alone, one of my favorites, where they it's like survivalist show, they do it on Vancouver Island. So when I'm like, he's on Vancouver Island, I'm like, are you like living in like a bushcrafted hut? No, but there's a city, Victoria, and we got at least some internet there and a house.
So I will say, interesting Alone story. There was actually a hiker that got lost like 2 months ago, I think. And he survived. Like he ended up living, he built he lived the Alone experience, and they actually found this person, and it sounds like they were mostly unharmed. So like cool Vancouver Island survival story.
Wow.
And it's a lot of forest here. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So then what's the connection to teaching for you, right? Like where is this passion of education kind of brewing and growing?
So I took down the 5 degrees that I had on my wall behind me, because I thought that was I'll put them up later, not for the first stream.
That's real.
We'll go one per stream.
Yes.
Yeah. Just pop in.
Yeah, so I went to school like many moons ago for a different applied science. I went to school back when CSI was really cool. If you don't know what that is, youngins that are out there watching the stream, CSI stands for Crime Scene Investigation. It was a sweet show. If you've ever seen a meme of like somebody just like saying something awesome and pulling off their glasses or putting them on, that is CSI for you. And I was like, I'm going to be that guy. I want to have cool glasses and put them on and take them off.
You can do that here.
I can. I mean, I got my red glasses. Other days you will see yellow, you'll see green, purple. I got all the colors. And so I did that and got through 4 years and couldn't find a job in that area, but I worked at like summer camps all the way through, just because like that's what you do. And when I graduated, I got a job working at a youth center, and kind of fell in love with this, like engaging with young people to teach them things. And so when I landed here in Victoria, I got a job working at the university running a STEM summer camp program, and started working with a lot of teachers through that process. And I was like, I really want to know what it's like to be in that environment. Like, I'm getting to work with you, but I want to know what your life is like. And me, I could have read a book or watched some YouTube videos, but I was like, no, I'm going to spend 2 years of my life and many tens of thousands of dollars. And I went back to school. I was working at the university, and I was like, I need to take some time off, and I'm going to go and get my teaching degree. And then I'd started some master's work before and kind of like paused the master's work to do the teaching degree, and then went back and finished the master's degree. And so like through that process, kind of fell in love with education. And then through that, as I said before, like had gotten connected with the tech industry through some of the programs I was building. And then just have like fallen in love with this world of like developer education, developer relations. We live in this world that's really cool, and it is this like inquiry, sort of like go and solve a problem in a really cool way. And so that's definitely kind of what has landed me kind of in this education-y space. I love learning, and the best way to learn is to just be a teacher.
Yeah, I feel that. That's I feel like the more you do, the more you actually learn how to do the thing. So that's super cool. And I know you mentioned this already, but one of the first things you did was build out a STEM pro, or like a dev boot camp for was it high school age kids?
Yeah, for high school age kids.
So tell me a little bit about that, and tell me also about the process, because I think the process you went through to build that out was pretty interesting, and maybe not how most people would go about it.
Yeah, so I was running, I was covering a maternity leave when I was kind of brought into the university. And so when that kind of process was ending, there was an opportunity that came up to help build this high school technology program. I had a science background, but not a tech background. And so I was like, how do I build this thing when people have asked me to do this? So I literally went out and I scoured the web for every email address that I could possibly find for everybody that worked in tech in the local community. And it's a pretty big tech community here, like 1,000 startups in Victoria. And I literally emailed everybody that was on that list. And I said like, hey, I know you don't know me, but I'm building this like boot camp program. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'd love to know, like, I'd love to sit down and just like have a conversation with you about what this would look like for you in an ideal situation of like building a boot camp, if you could, for juniors that you would bring in. And I think I met with probably 20 CEOs and sort of like COOs and like all these different sort of C-suite and engineering leaders. And they all kind of gave this advice, and sort of we took that advice and built a steering committee and built a curriculum and turned it into, in the first year, it was a 6-week program, met on weekends for 6 weeks and then async stuff during the week. And it was all focused on like build a project that solves a problem for you in your community. So it wasn't like go and build this thing that we've predefined. It was, you're a teenager. Teenagers have problems. Like, what are the problems that you are facing? And I want you to go and I want you to build an app that solves that problem. And so the first year, like we did everything using like really accessible technology. So it was like vanilla everything, like vanilla JS, HTML, CSS, and we were using like, I think we were using like Firebase as the backend at that time. And it was really way more focused on, let's go through in the 6 weeks the entire design process. So let's go from like go and have conversations in your groups, and let's build out some concepts that you want to build, and now we'll decide on the best concept. And the way we arranged it was 16 kids total, or 16 young people total, groups of 4. And then they had one university grad student mentor who was like in the academic world, and then one industry mentor. And so it was basically like a 1 to 2 person ratio. And these people literally just like sat with these juniors and just kind of walked them through the process. And we had like seminars, and we had like all these kind of like predefined activities, but it was really focused around, it was really focused around helping them get through this process and get connections in the industry. And then we were really lucky because some of the companies that ended up sponsoring this, so some of the startups actually gave us like, we got about $20,000 in cash. So the students got charged next to nothing. And then that money actually went into a scholarship fund for some of the students that went through the process. And a few of those students actually got the opportunity to go and do a high school internship.
Nice.
So they actually, at like 17, they got hired to go into a startup. And I think one of my favorite things was I went in, and somebody in their first 2 weeks, they got to change the production favicon for this application. And they were just over the moon, because the process to change that favicon involved like a bunch of CI/CD steps and like approvals and all the rest of this stuff. But so that was the process.
That's so cool. And I love that, like, going in, like, I don't know, I feel like if I was to think like my first go would be just like figure out how people build curriculum, and then like copy a curriculum and like teach them Python. I don't know, but I love that you made it project based, because that's honestly like the only way I've ever learned how to code is by building stuff. And then I love that you like went to the industry and were like, hey, what do you think? Because then what that also did was get you those sponsorships and get you those partners and other people to come in, because they knew that they were being heard. How many years did you run that for?
So I built that and ran it for, I think, 2 or 3 years, and then handed that off. And then in the world of startups, it actually recently got acquired by the program that I had originally been the kind of covering that mat leave, running that STEM program. So it's like a startup within a university was what this program was. And so this other program kind of sucked it in. And so now it's like a core high school program for them.
That's so cool. And did things change year to year? Like, were there things that you iterated on from one year to the next as you like did this multiple times?
Yeah, so first year it was all in person. Second year we tried to add extra things. So we tried to add stuff during the year. So we ran a conference, which I called UX Day. It was like user or youth experience day, where like students basically came up with like talks that they thought would be relevant and delivered them. And youth serving organizations came. We did like weekend programs. I built an ambassador program around it, but it was sort of all focused on let's build some things that keep people that are really engaged in this still engaged through, and then we'll attract new people in with this boot camp. And then of course the pandemic happened and we went fully remote, and that was fun, but didn't really change the program too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. We've got Bianca back. I'm going to bring her back in. Hi, Bianca. Amazing. So I love that. And I love that you built that out. And that's one of the reasons we're so excited that you're here, because you get to help us think about Twilio's curriculum as a whole and how it all fits together. So that's there. And then one of the things that was super cool about when Andrew interviewed, he gave us a demo with Battlesnake. And I know you were working with Battlesnake in the dev cycle. Can you tell us a little bit about Battlesnake, what it is, and how it does teach? Like, what's their theory behind how they can teach coding?
I love it. So Battlesnake, if anybody that's watching in chat, if you ever played that old like Nokia Snake game on your phone where you like go around and you're like a bunch of blocks and you try and eat little circles and then you get longer and you try not to run into yourself. Awesome game, been around forever. So Battlesnake started out as a local kind of programming hackathon alternative here in Victoria, where a company did it internally, and it was just like, we're going to build together this game where instead of you using a game controller to control it, you're going to program it. So it was a really simple, like you built a web server that responded to a bunch of data and made your snake go up, down, left, or right. And then it went from sort of 5 people in like a conference room to just before the pandemic, it was 2,000 people. It was like the largest hackathon on the West Coast. And it was amazing. And I joined the company. Hey, Joe. Joe Nash is here. So Joe is a former Twillion. Also is the first person that I ever met in DevRel. When I first started at Battlesnake, Joe was an advisor, and I met with him and I said, what am I doing here? Who am I? What is this DevRel thing? And honestly, is a big reason why I'm here, because ever since I met Joe, I've just been like, Twillions are the best people in the world in this space. Well, in the world, but also in this space. And so I was like, if I get the chance to work with them, that would be spectacular.
So Joe, I don't think we've ever met in person. I'm Alex. Hi, nice to meet you, Joe. You are the person who like it doesn't happen all the time, but if somebody's like, oh, you work at Twilio, this guy, Joe Nash, like he's so cool. You're that person. So
essentially
hi.
You're famous that but Joe cool people.
Glad you're here to join us.
So, but anyway, Battlesnake was this game, and so it became this hackathon. And the whole concept here was framework agnostic, language agnostic. Basically, if the language, you can create a web server with it, you can create a Battlesnake. And so it was sort of like a sandbox. I look at it as like a learning sandbox, and I love this concept of like you're learning whatever you want around this central kind of core technology theme, whatever you want to say. And so maybe you already know Python and you want to learn how to deploy on, I don't know, DigitalOcean or on Heroku. You can use this platform to now learn how to do that. And you don't need to learn any other way to build it. And you can do lots more than if you're, say, building a to-do app or if you're building some kind of simple project, right?
It's funny. I think the first time I saw it was Nathaniel, one of our evangelists in EMEA, was like hosting some sort of battle snake event, which was super cool. And he was like announcing it like a play-by-play sports commentator. It was really fun.
It is, and I will say, if you're interested in Battlesnake, and again, this is not sponsored. Can I say that now? Can I be able to not sponsored? Not sponsored. But go and check it out. And if you want to learn about Joe, go just like search Joe Nash Battlesnake, and he did this awesome stream called Coding Badly. And I think Twilio was used a couple times in it. So go check it out. It's awesome. The platform's still out there. It's free. It's open source. So you can go and check it out and get involved in it. Great kind of learning sandbox if you're wanting to explore a new technology in kind of a fun way.
Yeah. That's fun. I told some people about that I'm mentoring, and they got really excited. So I hope more people use that to learn to code, because I think it's a great little tool.
The Twilio bot. Did y'all talk about the sweater on stream, or was
no?
Or is this?
Outshining. I got warm. I have the same one, but
times.
I took mine. No. I took mine off.
So chat, if you're watching this and you're wondering why this is coming up. So I, as a new Twilion, you get to order a kit. You get a kit when you come in. And so I got like a backpack, I got a bunch of stuff, but I got this sweater, and we were in an internal meeting earlier today, like a team building thing. And I was the only one in this meeting that had this until Alex came in. And now I think we're all going to get it because everybody was very jelly. Very, very jelly.
It would be one thing if this is a tangent. It would be one thing if I know we're here to focus. Yes, it was beyond jelly. We got to salty territory. It'd be one thing if it was like, oh, accidentally Alex got the sweatshirt, but then it became like, wait a minute, how did it tangent alert? I love this. Yes. So then it was like, wow, this was not double accidental, Well, it could have been, but I was just like, no, we have to rectify the t-shirt situation. But I do love this tangent alert. I think I might have to I wish there's a little banner, tangent alert.
We need little emojis down in the corners.
Whenever you're having a
breaking news, tangent from Bianca, go.
Yeah. I mean, it's also real
y'all
life.
are so fun. Y'all are so fun.
It happens in real life. Okay, but back to the matters at hand.
At hand. Let's get serious.
The bot works. Andrew is going to do a build, and all is well. Also, Andrew brings cool friends to the stream. Hopefully you'll be our friends too. So we're all friends here. So that's essentially
Roxy, Joe, we hope you keep hanging out.
Come back. That's the other thing that I'm essentially saying.
There's something behind this. So we've done this once before. Roxy, of course you're a cool friend. Welcome. Anyone here is a cool friend. Everyone. We love everybody. But so we've done this once before, which is Bianca built her track jacket app on stream. And so when Andrew joined, we were talking about building a track jacket, and part of the thing is you have to demo it. And I was just like, why? Just do it on stream. Why not demo in front of all of our cool stream friends? And build your track jacket app that way. And so Andrew's gonna do a little build for us. You can tell us about what that is in a moment, and then afterwards, maybe the next time, I don't know how long it takes to get, but we'll see him with a little red track jacket. So
yeah, we're gonna build a thing. This is gonna be cool. Y'all are gonna stay on though, right? So we're engaging, we're chatting.
We're here.
Oh, we're here. I love it.
We're here. We're here for you, and we'll ask questions and we'll build with you.
I love it. So I'll screen share in just a second, but I'll give the inspiration for this. So I don't know about any of you, and maybe I'm not allowed to say this because we work at a communications company, but emails have gotten out of hand, and text messages and Slack notifications. I haven't checked my email in a few days. I have 600 messages in my email. I am always at inbox 0.
Wait,
so this is
personal email, right? Not
personal email.
Okay.
Personal email.
Good. That's a lot of Twilio email for someone who started 2 weeks ago.
I'm at 16. I'm at 16.
I don't try to keep up with personal anymore.
I used to be an inbox zero person, and then I don't know what happened mid-year. It just went off the rails.
I actually have a problem where my favorite like news source they had an app, but they mostly do newsletters, and they cut the app and are only in newsletters. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to read them anymore because I don't want to go into my email.
Wow.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Andrew, we hear you.
Okay.
We see this is a
We see you. Trust me, I've done lots of presentations about how don't email me.
So, I've been thinking about this for a while. I was like, I miss the old school pager idea, right? Of like where you have your phone and your phone is for like personal stuff and your pager is for work stuff. And for those of you who are of an age that pagers are not a thing, beepers is another way they are called. And they were this little device that had a phone number and you would call it and it would basically say like, so-and-so just called you, call them back. And you could get like all your messages here. It was kind of like you see a lot of doctors would be using it a lot. And so like they would get beeped and they would go to the hospital. So I was like, can you buy one of these now? Because I would love to buy one of these for work things. And so I went looking for it and it is almost impossible to find it. Basically, every phone service provider that exists in the world right now has gotten rid of their pager networks because it's not like 4G, 5G, LTE. It's like a totally separate network. And so even if you buy one today on like eBay or something like that, it won't work. There's like a separate service you have to use. And I was like, okay, I wonder if I can like make one. And so I started like when I started at Twilio and I knew about the track check, I started looking around to see what was there. And I found this amazing article. So I'm gonna screen share now. I'm gonna move people over here.
Yeah.
And I might have to reset. So we'll see. Yeah, I do. I'm gonna disappear and come back. So
okay.
Don't go anywhere, chat. Done. And actually, maybe I don't have to. Hold on. Hold the phone. It gave me a pop-up, but then Chrome tab, entire screen. Okay, I gotta go over here.
You can do either way. If you need audio, you should do Chrome tab. But if you don't need audio, you can do either way.
Yeah, I'm gonna be back. Don't go anywhere, chat. I'll be right back, and I'll be able to screen share.
Cool. Andrew is working on screen share. Bianca, what have you ever had a pager? You're muted. Sorry.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think I was, but I feel like my siblings did. They're old. They're old.
Yeah. I remember my first job getting a work BlackBerry and being so excited. Little whatever you graduate, 22-year-old me was like, oh yeah, work BlackBerry. I regret that. I am so sad that I had that. It's just like, why did I do that to me? Why did I want that? And because I was also in an environment where like I worked at a data center. If anyone knows what that is, those are the facilities where like all the computers run. Like we hear a lot about that with AI. So it's technically a 24/7 business. It's always on, which meant that every once in a blue moon, somebody would call me at 2 a.m. and be like, yo, Alex, we need you to do this thing. So I'm happy that I don't have that anymore.
I will say, Roxy, we are age inclusive here. Also, I'm talking. I call everybody old. I even call myself old at times.
She called my 2-year-old toddler old the other day. It was weird.
Yeah. So like everyone's old. So no, yeah. It's my favorite. I don't know. It's my favorite thing to lean into.
Yeah. Yes. Andrew, are you ready for your screen?
Oh, I'm back. I'm bringing it up. What I do love? Do you know what I love about this process, though? I was like, Google will remember every tab that I had open, prepped for this stream, and it just closed all of them. So y'all, we're going on an adventure on stream in the next like 45 minutes. It's going to be real. Okay, so anyways, I started looking and I found this article from 2014. So just like a couple minutes ago. Do you know Ricky?
Hi, Ricky. Yeah. Ricky's the homie.
Mm-hmm.
So Ricky wrote this. Also, if anybody that is in chat can name this movie in which this pager is being held, mad props.
That's what I thought. I think I was thinking the same thing. Chef Brent just dropped. Is that right?
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh yeah.
And so basically in this, Ricky is building a pager using an Arduino. And if you've never used an Arduino before, it's basically it's a microcontroller. So it's a way to like kind of prototype electronics. You'll see it a lot in like hacker maker spaces and stuff like that. And he built this, or they built this awesome contraption that was a functional beeper, and they gave a whole bunch of code that actually allowed for you to do it. And it was awesome. It was such a great concept. Such a great concept because it walked you through from start to finish. But this was 2014. And this pager, I will say there's a couple of pieces here. So one, in order to use this pager, you needed to have a Node app running on your computer, and you needed to have it connected to your computer. So basically it was kind of a pager, but not really a pager because pagers need to be portable. And it's challenging because, like, do you really want to have another application running on your local device? And just so you know, the reason for that is because Arduinos generally do not have a hold on, I want to just make sure that I'm on the right microphone right now. I am. Do not have like a wireless chip in them, and so you can't communicate with them wirelessly. You have to communicate with them over a serial connection, so like a USB connection to your computer. And so what the concept here, what had basically happened was they created a Node.js app, and then they used something called ngrok. And if you don't know what ngrok is, I think we talked about it on previous A/B testing, but basically ngrok is a way to serve local hosted applications on the public web. And he sort of used this in the application so that Twilio could speak to the application, to the computer, and then the computer spoke to the Arduino. And that's amazing. And like, shout out Ricky. Is Ricky still here?
No, Ricky's not here. So Ricky currently runs DevRel at Cloudflare. So he works with Craig, who we had on last week.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. A Craig connection, a Cloudflare connection.
We're everywhere.
So awesome. If you're interested in this, go and read this blog. It was really easy to follow, kind of gave me the inspiration here. So this was old school. Oh, sorry.
Also, you missed this, Andrew, because you joined late, but we used to have a whole IoT department, and we used to have SIM cards that would work, that were like universal across things. And so I don't know if they still work. That got spun off like a year or two ago, but this used to be something we would do more of, and we had within Twilio the entire process to make it fully remote. But I'm curious to see how you did it.
I love it. Okay, so first thing that I will say is mine is not as pretty. I'm going to show it to you in a second. I'll hold it up to the camera, and then a little bit later on, I'll move the camera so you can see it as we're kind of doing some work here. But I also didn't use an Arduino, not a proper Arduino. I used something called an ESP32, which is still a microcontroller. And so you can see up here, I've got like a breadboard, which is like a prototyping board, and I've got a little LCD screen. And then in my, I guess, right hand here, I've got this kind of little microchip looking thing, and this is an ESP32. Can anybody that's in chat guess what the difference between this ESP32 and the Arduino that was in the original version of this is? What's the major difference between those two microcontrollers? Any guesses?
I might take a guess. I'm going to wait for chat to give some ideas, but because I've used both and I don't totally know what the difference is, but I'm here to think about it.
Chef
built-in Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, I was gonna say the capabilities seem.
Do all ESP32s have built-in Wi-Fi?
No, so ESP32 I think is just like the actual chip
architecture.
Exactly. Yeah. But this specific board, and it was super cheap. Like I got 2 of these boards because I knew that I was going to break one. It was like $10 or something like that.
What board was it?
It is the Elgu. I'm going to show it. Elgu ESP32. Yeah, it's this guy right here. It's a dev board. So like $5 Canadian. So that's like 5 cents American. Like it's.
I forget you're in Canada sometimes. I was like, wow, why is it? It sounds like it's in Canada.
Oh
yeah, I've used LilyGo's before, which also you can get you can put a SIM card into them too, which is cool.
Yeah. And I also bought this Elgu like Uno kit, which came with a lot of stuff, including the breadboard and a bunch of other stuff that I didn't end up using. But I can use that for a future stream. And so what's great about this is that basically allowed for me to level up the kind of way that this pager is working. So the build and the stuff that I'm going to show you, and we've got like 50 minutes, so I'm not going to build everything live because I did a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. So I'll show you some of the stuff that I did and walk you through a bunch of that process to show you kind of how this works. But what this means is basically I have a pager that only actually requires the ESP32 in order to function. And the way that I'm able to do that is because instead of using a Node.js application as the sort of like gateway between, I actually set up WebSockets. Does anybody not know what WebSockets are? Or anybody in chat interested in knowing what WebSockets are? I'm going to tell you either way, but.
Yeah, we actually used WebSockets, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago on a stream when we were using the OpenAPI real-time API.
Oh,
or OpenAI real-time API, because that was all WebSocket based when we were doing that. But so we've got a little bit of experience on stream with WebSockets, but WebSockets are one of those things that are hard to grasp, to really grok, if you will. And so every time someone can give an explanation, it helps me understand it better, even though I've built with them.
Amazing. So if you look normally, if you're using a regular application and you want to get updates, right? You need to you have a website, especially old school like PHP websites, you would go to a site and you would have to, if you wanted to get the new updates to the page, you would need to click refresh on the page, right? That makes sense. Like you refresh, you get the updated page. Amazing. So what if you don't want to have to refresh the page? Well, there's a thing that exists in web applications and a lot of applications called polling. And what polling is sort of like you're constantly in the background calling the server and you're saying, tell me what's changed on here and show it on the page. And so a lot of sort of basic real-time applications are just polling the server like every second, every couple hundred milliseconds, whatever. But it's super inefficient. And if you are like running on like a pay per use of like pings to the server, it can get really expensive pretty fast. So then you kind of graduate and there's something called like server sent events. And those are a thing where like you build up like a one-way connection between your application and the server. And basically anytime something happens on the server, it's going to send a notification to your application that something has changed. But SSEs are, from my knowledge of working with them, they're one way. So basically you have a connection from the server to your application. WebSockets are kind of like the final evolution, as it were. If this were a Pokemon, this is my audience, right? Am I in the Pokemon people?
No, you're good. Yeah.
We're here. All right. So if you were, say, a Charmander, WebSockets are your Charizard. Yes, we did. And it's kind of the final evolution. It's a two-way sync between your application and the web server. So basically, it's a two-way communication street between. And it's basically creating a long-lived connection that doesn't do very much. It just kind of sits open. But then anytime that something happens, it's going to send to the application and vice versa. So think of it as though there's like a window open in a house, and like anytime somebody's talking inside, you can hear them outside, and anytime anybody's talking outside, you can hear them inside, and you can like choose what to do with that information, but you can kind of hear what's going on either side. You're opening that gateway between the two. So basically on this ESP32, on this microcontroller, I have a WebSocket connection running. It's not running directly on the device. It's using a third-party service that we're going to look at to basically keep a connection open to a Twilio service that we're going to look at. And basically anytime that anything changes there, it's going to send through to this and it'll update. And we'll hopefully be able to demonstrate that, unless I broke something at some point, because it's not a real demo unless something doesn't work.
Yeah, if it works, is it real? I don't know.
Exactly.
If it works the first time.
Exactly. So, I'll talk about this, but we're not going to go too deep in. Have you guys heard of Pusher before?
No.
So Pusher is like WebSockets as a service. It's really big in the Laravel community. So like I'm a big Laravel dev. I love PHP. It's like the first WebSocket service I ever got introduced to. And basically it's like a pay per use service. And it's awesome. It's an amazing service to definitely check out. But we're here on a Twilio stream, so we're going to focus on Twilio technology. And I'm going to log in, but not here, because Twilio is awesome, because I have 2-factor set up, and it's going to ask me for a code that I'm going to need to go into 1Password to grab, I think. And you don't want to do that on screen.
No, we can. We'll hide your screen for a moment.
No, we're
So
good.
you're
We're
good.
I got it on my second monitor. So, and actually, I had already logged in, so it didn't. So the other thing that everybody should know is I'm a big low code, no code fan. I love coding things. I love building things, but I also feel like there's an accessibility that low code, no code brings. One of my first conference talks was at the Node-RED Con, where I built a battle snake using Node-RED, which is like a low code, no code platform. And then when I started, Alex had talked to me and said, like, Studio is pretty freaking awesome. And I was like, all right, let's see what we can do with that. So if you don't know what Studio is a low code, no code way to use Twilio services. And so I think this is going to be, just for the sake of time, it's going to be like a show and tell versus like an actual like building it live. And so what I've got here, but I'll show you what I did in here. So what I have here is, this is our flow, or our pusher service that we've got created in here. And so when you initially go in to your create a new flow, this is all you're going to have is the trigger. And so there's a bunch of different triggers that you can assign to a flow, right? And they say them all here. So it can be like a REST API call. It can be an incoming conversation. And we're not going to go deep into Twilio conversations today, but that's a really cool tool that you can use. There's an incoming call and an incoming message. So as you can imagine, for a pager, we could easily have focused on an incoming call, but I feel like we're such a text-based people now, and I needed a really easy starting place. And so I really focused on my pager being a texting pager. So it's basically a third-party number that you can text, and it will go through just to my pager. So it's not connected anywhere else. It's literally just going to my page, going to Twilio, and then through Twilio, it's going into my pager. Does that make sense? Now, the great thing here is you can have a lot of different triggers here. So I had a dream that I could actually make this work with Slack too. So you can build a Slack bot that anytime you get a direct message would also send through to this number. But for the sake of time and like complexity, I decided not to do that for this stream. So basically what happens in here is an incoming message comes in. And then when that happens, I actually have it being sent through to a custom function that you can build in here. And I'll show you what that function looks like in just a second. And don't worry about the actual address here. It's just, you have to have an address that shows you're here. And then once you go through that function, which is basically sending information to say, hey, there's been a text message sent through to Pusher, you then get a text message back that says your message was received. Or if there was some sort of an error in that function, you would receive a text message back to say your message was not received. And then you'll actually get the body of the error response that you would get in there. So that's kind of the idea here. So you get a text message, it comes into Twilio. It's always going to do that. I don't need to have any of this stuff set up for my number to work and the text message to work. And when it does, I can go into my logs in the Twilio dashboard and I can see all of that stuff and the text message will come in. This is sort of when the text message comes in, what happens. And I have this flow and all the rest of this stuff set up to a specific number that I set up. Now, I'm in Canada, and from what I've been able to figure out so far, I didn't have to do the processes that you have to do if you're based in the US, which takes a little bit of time. But this is helpful for the stream because I'm 3 weeks in now, and I wouldn't have had it in time.
You can already send a text message,
Exactly. And so all of my numbers are set up as Canadian numbers in here as well. So does the flow make sense to everybody? So text message comes into Twilio. When that happens, it triggers this pusher function, which is basically sending a notification to the pusher system to say a message was received and here's the information. And then through that, because there's a WebSocket open between my pager and that pusher function, and the pusher system, we're going to be able to sort of get the update on our pager, and then we're going to get a text message back. And so this is the only thing that really doesn't involve Twilio directly. This is all focused on pusher. These are our responses, are sending our message back to our phone.
But so this is the person. So like if somebody texts this number to page you, they'll actually get the error code back. So this is right now you built this a little more for like you to debug it, but like probably might change that later.
Exactly. So yeah, in an ideal world, what you would do in here is you wouldn't have this widget pusher body. You would actually just have it like this, and you would save that. I did this because I wanted to be able to see if there were error codes there. And I had a lot. I spent all day Friday last week just trying to debug this. And so we probably won't see an error, but just in case.
Nice.
Now, the other thing is to be able to see this live on stream. You weren't going to be able to I'm not going to show you my cell phone and my personal phone number. So I actually set up a second number that's not my pager that I have connected to the Twilio dev phone.
You got the dev phone working.
I did. So Twilio dev phone, if you're not sure what this is a way to test out an application. Basically, you attach the dev phone to a specific phone number that you've set up through Twilio, and then it allows you to receive and send messages. And it's awesome.
Done through the Twilio CLI. That's the easiest way to deploy it.
And so I went through, and if you look this up, by the way, the instructions, spectacular. I followed this yesterday. So literally you install the CLI. It's really simple to do. If you have Homebrew, which if you are doing any kind of development in 2025,
you don't have Homebrew, that'd be weird.
Homebrew. I also love Scoop. I love that Scoop's becoming a thing for Windows. Basically you install it here, and then you go through and follow the process here. You install the plugins, you run this command, it gives you a bunch of output things, and it's going to look a little bit something like...
and then essentially what it does in the background is it puts a service and function and assets and stuff into your Twilio account, and then lets you connect and creates a homepage, like a web page that is the dev phone, and then lets you connect it to one of your numbers, and then when you Control C at the end, it deletes it all, so it clears everything off. So I always have on every account one number that's dedicated to dev phone because I use this a lot, and this is how I don't dox myself every time on stream.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do today. So this is what dev phone looks like when you load it up. And so you can see here, I've got this phone number associated with it. Click use this phone number. And here we go. I now have this number.
One thing I'll say, be careful. If you have stuff set up with a number and you choose the wrong number, it'll clear out what you had set up with that number. So make sure that you're choosing the right number for dev phone. In console, you can actually label numbers, and I have a dev phone labeled number in most of my accounts.
Yeah. It does walk through all of this stuff in the docs. It's so good. I will say, I met with Tierney yesterday, and he was talking about the person who maintains this, and just such a good, if you're looking to get in with Twilio and you don't want to use your personal phone and you've got $2, because that's all it costs for a number in a month, get it.
Or if you're outside of the US, this is a huge thing for developers outside of the US trying to test things as well. Tierney is great. And then I think Dom was one of the first people on this thing. I think he might have wrote some of these docs, but Dom was a big part of that. Brent would know.
I love that. So basically what this is going to allow us to do is now I'm going to be able to send a number to my pager. Please, if you're watching this on stream, do not dox me. Do not send a million messages to my pager. I will just shut down Pusher. I'll probably change the number after anyways, but just be kind. It's my third week, people. This is what's going to happen. So we're going to send text messages via this interface. We're going to receive those messages back in this interface that you'll see here. And then I'm going to, in just a second, show you my pager once I've shown you the code. So you can kind of see these things happening in concert. But there's one thing we haven't really dove into yet, which is actually this pusher function. And before I show you that, I need to make sure that I'm not going to give away some secret keys when I go in here.
Is this in Twilio? Usually they're hidden, so you should be okay.
So I did. I had to hide them. So let's go into this function. So when you go in and you want to create a new function, by the way, there's a couple of ways to create them. I'm using a legacy way to do it just because that's the way that I was kind of redirected in the platform. But when you go in here, you're in Studio. When you want to create a function to be able to use in a flow, you'll go to this functions and assets section, and then you've got this overview view where I think you can create a new service and function. I'm using this kind of classic functions.
Oh, I've actually never used classic functions before.
All right. Well, today is your day.
I feel like Yeah, Alex, you're not a fan.
It's basically, I don't want to say it's depreciated, but it's we all like basically you'll see two categories there: functions and assets.
Yep.
Services basically collapse those into one, so you can have both of those together
Yep.
for specific applications.
Yeah. So what I loved about this, even just using it this way, was it was really a way, because when you consolidate, things can kind of get lost in the mix. This is like a good way for people to see. Anyways, from my side, I was like, this is a great way to demo this. So, okay. So, so like Alex said, in this function section, there's secrets. So you can have your secrets that are in here. I have two secrets. These are related to Pusher. So this is why I don't obviously want to show these on stream. The other thing you do with this configure is you can actually import NPM modules. So functions, as you can imagine, in the internet of the modern day, it's all JavaScript functions. So if you don't like JavaScript, too late, too bad. Sorry. So all of this stuff is kind of predefined. So Twilio is obviously pre-installed. For me, like this Lodash and Util and XML DOM, I'm pretty sure we're in here as well. The only thing that I needed to install was this Pusher NPM module, which allows for me to obviously communicate with this Pusher service.
And this feature of like adding dependencies into a like web or like a hosted thing, I think there's a lot of places that do it. Some don't. So like, for example, Airtable doesn't let you do this, and it's really hard because you can't use modules that were built. You can't use these tools that they've made to make it easier. You have to kind of use some basic things. So this is great. I'm glad you're showing this. And by the way, if somebody wants to do this in the services, it's almost identical process. So
awesome. And just so you know, I'm going to publish this as a blog post afterwards. So I'm going to give all the instructions.
I have some ideas for you, and I can tell you about those later as we go through this.
I love it. So I do actually want to show you what a base function looks like. So I'm going to cancel this for a second. I just want to create a new function so you can see what it looks like. And there's a bunch of predefined ones in here, like just to send things back. But if you created a blank function in here, you're basically getting this. So it's set up for like a really simple response in sort of the response way that it's set up here. And so you've got context, event, callback stuff, and then you are returning your response. It's just it's a handler for calls, right? It's what it is. So obviously I've gone a bit beyond this. We're not doing a voice response. We're doing some stuff with Pusher. So what we do in here is in our push function. So first thing you need to do is you need to name it, and you need to give it a path. We're not using the path. I could have named this whatever I wanted. It doesn't matter for us in this case. And then first thing I need to do is I need to pull in this Pusher library that I'm going to be using here. I needed to create my new, instantiate my new Pusher instance. And so all of this stuff that's here, you can get from the Pusher docs. So like, actually, I would say Pusher is really, really good for giving you examples. I'm going to pull it over here just to make sure that I don't dox myself again. Can I sign in with GitHub? Did I use Google or GitHub? I think I used Google. No, I used GitHub. Oh, amazing. Okay. So when you go into getting started, is it going to do the right thing here? I want to do it in Vue.js. I'll end up doxing myself if I do this. But basically, they give you some really, really good examples of what this structure looks like in JavaScript. And it's basically your app ID, your key, your secret, whatever the cluster is. The default is US, and then use TLS. Yes, use TLS. And then we've got a couple of things that are going on here. This is really the meat and potatoes of this function. And so basically what's happening in here is when a text message is received from or into the Twilio number, it is going to trigger an event on a specific channel. And so in Pusher, all you really need to know is you can have multiple channels and then multiple events per channel. And you could decide that for a specific user of your application, you only wanted them to be able to see WebSocket notifications that came through on like my channel or your channel or their channel. And same with the events. It's all kind of about permissioning, and like you would build your application around this channel concept. For us, doesn't really matter what these are called. It's all going to be one event. It's all going to be one channel. But what we're pulling in is coming from this event that we're feeding into our function. This is coming through Twilio, and we are feeding event body and event from. So basically, we're getting the text number that it's coming from and the body of that. And I'll show you how you set these, because you actually need to do this in the flow. And then it returns a response in console, so in our logs on Twilio, and then it's going to do the callback with a success status and then the pusher response. Does that make sense? Is that all pretty straightforward to everybody? And then you got an error response as well with the error that's going to send back to you. Amazing. Okay, so the important piece here is, like I said, these event pieces are coming from Twilio, but in the flow, you need to define them. So if we go back over to our flow, working to our working pusher pager. Pusher pager. I should have called it a push. I was just like, I should have combined those two words into a portmanteau, but they're all still just pusher or pager. Pushager?
Yeah, I don't got it. It doesn't work.
Amazing.
But just sure. Yeah.
So in here, so we've got our function here. We defined it to this function URL push. Again, I've got that new blank one that I created, but we're going to set it as push. And then our function parameters, which you saw there of from and body, are ones that we're defining, and they're coming through the trigger. So you have this trigger parameter that's attached to this function, and whenever that trigger is called, and sort of that trigger message from is going to be grabbing that from through the trigger, and the same with the body. So I know this all is pretty straightforward, but like every time you receive a message on a text number, it's always going to have a trigger message from, and it's always going to have a trigger message body. I could have called my key names whatever I wanted and use them in my application, but for like simplicity, this seemed like an easier way to go. All right, so we've got the function good. Really happy.
And then you configured your phone number to point to this studio flow. Am I jumping ahead, or were you gonna?
No, that's great. And then so you have to configure a phone number. So you have to activate phone numbers for a flow. So that's the last kind of step that you would need to do in here. And so I've got one of these phone numbers. This is like my pager phone number that's attached to this flow. And if you go into it, I think, you can, for a number, you can define what part is connected to. So you can say like, I want everything to go through, or I just want webhooks, or like whatever connections that you want to be there. You can decide. I said, I just want messages to be connected to this function. And so you can see here that messaging configuration is a message comes in Studio Flow, the flow pusher, working pusher pager. So this, it prompts you to do all of these things in the system as you're going through. So that's literally all the setup we needed to do in Twilio, which is amazing. Like we have not really touched a little bit of code so far, but like pretty low lift.
It's a lot of like base code, like what was there already. It's a lot of using the structures that we already had.
Exactly. And even the stuff that's going from pusher, you can see it there. Now, here's the other thing that I love about Twilio. Track changes are just chef's kiss. Like literally rearranging the canvas prompts a change. I like the level that tells, like I love track changes and like just being able to do that. And y'all, I'm going to publish those changes, and this could break everything that I'm doing today. So
always that opportunity.
Always that opportunity. Okay, so we're done everything in here. Now we actually need to get into the Arduino. All right. Yeah. Okay, so
are we going to get to see the pusher configuration too, or is that?
Oh yeah, we can go ahead and see the pusher. So pusher configuration is pretty straightforward. So really,
we can get there later. We don't have to do that. I don't know. I don't want to mess with your flow. I was just curious.
No, you're totally good. So really, there is no.
Or maybe I do want to mess with your flow just to see how you respond.
Hello.
This is a test, Andrew. No, I'm kidding.
So so basically, in Pusher, you have your channels, and you create an app, and you can call. I love this Hunky Sunset. Just spectacular. So you can create a channels app. So there's like multiple things you can have. I think you can have. So if you go into Home, you can create beams and channels. I don't know what beams are. I'm sure they're awesome. We're focused on channels. So basically when you go in here, you create a channel app, you call it whatever you want, set a cluster. you can set your tech stack. I think it gives you some default stuff there. And then when you create that, it basically is going to give you a bunch of your secret keys and all the rest of that stuff that I am going to see what it looks like off camera, just to see if I can show you. Yeah, I can kind of show you what you're going to see without giving it away too much. So basically, when you do that, you're going to get this this screen, and I'm going to delete. You know what? Whatever, it's fine. I'm going to delete this channel immediately afterwards. So you have this code that it gives you of how to do this in like a front end JavaScript application. It's going to give you the information that you need to set up that instance. It's going to give you your channel names, and then it's actually going to show you how to publish events to Pusher.
So this is the code that you copied when you switched over to JavaScript. This is the code that you copied for
exactly
to put into the function to Studio Flow.
Yeah, and so you can see here, like it gives you lots of options. Like if you're a React Native fan, like you can see how to do it in React Native. And then like for publishing events, like it lets you show you how to do it in curl really simply, or like in Node.js, like whatever you want to do in there. I'm going to delete this now because I really don't want my plan to go down if somebody does decide to have a fun time and dox me. Let's delete this guy.
We're all good people here.
We're all good people, but you never know. Okay, so.
Oh, I know.
And then the great thing is they actually give you an awesome debug console in here where you can like test, like send and receive messages. So, basically, if I have this screen open and I send a message, then you can kind of see it show up here, which is great. So that's really all the setup in here. There's not very much. It's literally just like creating a new application, and then you get that key information. And it's a lot of copy and pasting. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Same with Twilio. Like, honestly, a lot of this stuff is like, you don't need to, you need to have a language that you know, but a lot of the boilerplate code is already there for you. Yeah. So that's...
Yeah,
we
talk about this. We talk about this a lot in terms of just like we make it really like so simple, and I think sometimes like it is so magical that you forget like all the things that are going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just enough to make you feel like you're doing something.
That's true.
Okay, so this is our Pusher setup. We got our Twilio set up. So now the last step is the actual stuff on the Arduino, and so or on the ESP32. So I said it's not an Arduino, but basically Arduino's IDE, which is
it's what you do for all of them.
Yeah, this is for any basically microcontroller you're gonna find.
We had a Keel join over on YouTube and is asking what is a pager. A pager is an old school device that was just like the little handheld thing before we all had cell phones that would like show you a little message there. And so we're going back in time and recreating a pager because you can't really find them anymore. And so we're doing that based on some blog posts that we wrote. If you go ahead and literally the first tab here, go old school build a pager, you can search that on the Twilio blog and find it. And we're trying to build a pager to live our old school glory days of not having cell phones all the time. But we're about to get into the code on the board itself.
Yeah, and I would say the code on the board itself is probably the most like intense that we're going to look at today, but it's still not that bad. And there's a lot of stuff that's out there. Like, I didn't have to write all of this stuff because there was some great open source code that was already out there to do little bits of it. So the great thing is all of this is available in open source, and you can find ways to do it. So here's your Arduino IDE. I'll show you how it works if you ever want to do this. So when you go in,
we're not seeing your IDE. We're seeing your tab still.
That's because I'm sharing my tab, not my screen. So let's go to sharing my screen, and I'm going to share the whole screen this time. Yes, and I've got that set there. Okay, I think we can add me back in. Perfect.
Sweet. Can you make it a little bigger?
I absolutely can, but that's as big as it will go on my screen. Oh, it's because we've got the building.
Oh, can you zoom in on the text? Can you do like Control Plus? I don't know if that works.
Yeah, no, it does. So this is a basic sketch. They're called sketches in here. Arduino, you're basically using like a flavor of C++. It's not pure C++. It's like
it's like a C something. It's a C-ish language. C flavor.
C-ish. It's C-ish. 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 It's like a shell. No, it's not shell.
Yeah.
I can't say that. No,
No, it's not.
Okay, so when you get in here, it's like any other IDE that you're going to see in here. A couple of things that are different. You have this selector where you can select between where your device is actually going to be located.
So just to be clear,
Yeah.
Arduino officially says it's a variant of the C/C++ programming language.
Okay.
So we're right. It's like C-ish. Yeah.
Love it.
Anyways.
So when you go in there, you're going to get this selector. So you would select your board. Mine's not plugged in right now. So we're not going to see anything here. You've got your boards manager because you need kind of like a plugin. You need to give the Arduino IDE the different boards that you are dealing with. And so in here, let's look at the ones that I have installed. What do I have installed right now? So I've got this Arduino AVR boards that are set up in here. I actually also have the ESP32 boards set up, but they're not the Arduino ESP32 boards. So that's the difference here.
Yeah, usually when your board will come with instructions, or you can look up instructions on how to install the board, and they'll tell you which package to use.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
Yeah. And so you can see here, there's like some partner ones by like HTML, contributed ones. Mine didn't appear in any of these ones. I'm pretty sure I had to do mine through the library. And so library, similar to plugins. And this is, I think, where I did ESP32. And so this is where you are actually going into find your installed libraries. So
nice. We actually, quick break. We have a special guest on stream.
Oh,
say
who's here?
Hello, Namira.
Oh, hello. Hello.
This is
Old
Namira, the
Twilio.
kitty.
So we did have some guests.
We did have a special guest.
You
This
know,
was I was trying to
just-
punk you, Bianca.
Wow. Yeah, two
Kidding.
guests.
You got me last week. So, anyway, sorry.
No, you're okay. I feel like cats are always better than code. Always, every day of the week.
Or
Every
together.
day of the week. All at the same time.
Yeah.
Cats and code.
Cats and code. So, anyways, so you install your board. If you can find it in there, you install your library. So these are like the same way that on Twilio we install them that way. Here, I needed to install some specific things into my Arduino because Arduino natively does not communicate with WebSockets. So I needed to install this Arduino WebSockets package. And I also needed to install this Arduino JSON package because Twilio is talking JSON and Arduinos don't natively talk in JSON. And so we needed to have that conversion factor that's in there. And then you've got some searching stuff in here and you've got some debugging stuff. We're not going to look at that today. And then your sketches, and your sketches are this. So basically you have your setup stuff that you're putting in your sketch, and then you have like a loop that you want to run. And we're going to use both of these. And this is one where I am going to scroll down for a piece of it because my home Wi-Fi information is in there. So there'll be a moment where I pull this off and scroll down, but we're going to go piece by piece in here because I was smart and I pulled this up into VS Code before.
Yeah. So just to clarify, setup is like when the board first powers on and gets going, the setup is the things that it runs first. And then once it's through that, it then loop is like what it's running constantly. So usually in your setups, you define which pins are doing what things. And then in your loop, you're actually taking actions on whatever's happening around.
Exactly. So first thing we need to do is we need to include the packages that we're going to use. So there's 4 packages we're going to use. 2 of them are available by default and 2 of them you had to install. So these 2 you'll remember we installed. And then these 2, the Wi-Fi and Liquid Crystal. The Liquid Crystal is that Liquid Crystal display that we saw before. And I'll show this to you again in a minute. And then Wi-Fi is obviously to have Wi-Fi. The next thing that you're going to need to do that I am going to scroll down in just a second, but I'm going to show you this part, is you basically need to define your SSID, which is your network name, and you're going to need to define your password. And then the other thing you need to do is actually give this some information about your WebSocket stuff. So this is all from Pusher. And I'm going to give you these ones. So the WebSocket host, actually, I can give you this one too. Completely. So it's just going to be sort of like WebSockets - whatever your region is, .pusher.com. It's a standard port, the name of the channel, and then the app key, which is one that I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to show it to you on here. And then the last things we need to do before the setup are some more sort of defining some variables in here. So we're going to set up this WebSockets namespace that we're going to be able to use, and to be able to have like a WebSocket client. This is just so that we can not have to type out WebSocket client every time. And then some of this stuff is a bit legacy. We don't actually need the scroll index anymore because I decided not to do that. But we have this from string and this content string. Those are going to feed through from those two variables that we had in there. The reason that it's not called from and message is because message is actually a variable that's like included by default in any Arduino program. And so you can't call a string message. It does not like that. It gets really mad at you. And then the last one here on 20, can anybody guess what's happening here on line 20? What am I doing here? What do you think? I want to hear from other students
chat
in the class. I want to hear from chat, or I'd love to hear Bianca. What do you think is happening here on line 20? And I'm not looking at chat, so you'll have to tell me.
Okay, let's see. Chat is ignoring us. What comes to mind is that it's like aligning to the particular points on the board. So that's what initially comes to mind.
So again, I'll get closer up there before, but basically you can see all those wires that are going into those rows on the breadboard. And then each of those rows that are on the breadboard basically feed through to one of those pins that's on there. Okay. And so, that's exactly what it is. Basically, I'm telling the board what those wires are doing and where they're going. So that was exactly it.
So there's probably there's probably a shorter way to say it, but in my mind I was like locations of source.
Absolutely.
By the way, I just learned something, Andrew, because I was looking. You can add a tab, and you can have a secrets tab in your Arduino IDE so that you can have stuff that's not shared.
Wow, that's good to know. I looked and I couldn't find it, but I'll use that for next time.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we've got this. So this is everything is set up here, except of course my app key and my SSID and password. And so I'm going to pull this over for 1 second. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to add all of that stuff and then give myself a whole bunch of spaces and scroll down. So let me grab all of this stuff again. And
all the stuff you've coded so far, except for the LCD. Oh no, the LCD thing included was all above was all even above the setup, right?
Exactly. Basically, this is all just stuff to get set up with your coding stuff. Okay, awesome. So I have got all of that stuff on here now. So all of that is at the top up here. We don't need to worry about that anymore. Now we're into the setup stage, and this is actually pretty straightforward. It's not as crazy as you think. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start a serial connection. And this is just basically how we are communicating with our Arduino or with our ESP, with our board. It's basically just the default that you need to be able to do any programs that are on here. And then because we're using our LCD, we also need to initialize our LCD. So we're basically doing this begin for both of them. Yeah. And that 16.2, again, these are pins that are controlling this stuff. And then of course, when we're first getting started up, the first thing that we want to do is send a message on our LCD saying connecting to Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, the serial beginning is the baud rate, which a lot of times if you're having issues and stuff just isn't working, make sure that you're hitting the right baud rate for your controller, because they're different for every like different board can have a slightly different number. And I've run into it before where I wasn't using the right number because I was following different tutorials. Exactly. So be careful there.
Exactly. So we've got that. We've set our baud rate. This is for the ESP32 board. We got our Wi-Fi begin, start that connection. And then we've got a little bit of a loop here that's just going to say connecting to Wi-Fi. As it's connecting to Wi-Fi, it's going to give you a 1,000 millisecond delay between sort of printing this connecting to Wi-Fi message. And once it gets past that and it is connected, so once you get that WL connected, it's going to serve you in your console. That's what serial, where you're printing serial is going to go into your console. And then we want to do the same thing on our LCD. But with the LCD, we've got to set where the cursor is, because our board has multiple lines, as you'll see in a second. And we're saying the first spot on the top line, send connected to Wi-Fi. Then we're going to have a little bit of a delay. So once we're connected to Wi-Fi, then we're going to connect to Pusher. So this is where we're going to make sure that we've got our WebSocket connection open. It's going to do something very similar here. And so this is all happening in this. Oh, let's stop saving. It's all happening in this setup loop. And so basically we are creating our WebSocket, which is going to go through to like a default sort of path that is defined by Pusher using our app key and stuff like that. We're then going to connect to that WebSocket client, and then is where the fun begins. So we're going to go and I'm going to grab all of the rest of this stuff. I think that's my whole thing. Yeah, it is. So I'm going to grab all the rest of it and walk through it. So now, is this making sense so far, by the way, for chat? Like, is everybody following this? Awesome.
I think it is. I've also used Arduino before.
So all you really need to know is so
You're
far,
muted,
Bianca. Is it making sense to you, Bianca?
It is. No, yeah. I think
Awesome.
I think you're helping us to understand like just the building blocks of how you're getting to where you need to go. So
next up, once we've done that, so we're connected, right? So if connected, then obviously we want to be able to tell our user that the WebSocket is connected. So it'll print it in the console. It will also clear the old message that was on our LCD, because this is code. Like, it doesn't know what to do unless you tell it. So we're going to clear the LCD, say WebSocket connected, clear it again. Then this is really where the fun WebSocket connection is happening. So the first thing you need to do is you need to do something like called subscribing. This is basically like once you create the Pusher channel, it's always open, but Arduino is not always connected to it. So you need to subscribe to that Pusher channel. And so this code basically from line 76 down to 84 is doing that. And it's basically just making the connection. It's opening the channel between your Arduino and that device. And then it's sending an error code there if it doesn't work. And then the last piece that's important in here. Oh, and you'll notice this like serialized JSON. This is all because Pusher only speaks in JSON and Twilio only speaks in JSON, but Arduinos don't speak in JSON. So you got to do a bunch of conversions in here. That's what's happening anytime you see the JSON or deserialize or serialize. And so the last function that's in here is this on message. And this is basically any time that a message is received on Pusher, it's going to do a thing. So the first thing is it's going to convert that into something that the Arduino can understand. It's going to then say, received a message on your console. It's going to clear the LCD, and then only if there is actually a real number that's attached to this, it's going to print some stuff. So there's a lot of if statements in here that are unnecessary, but it's basically just to show you like maybe somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing, and they're not sending a real number. You could put whatever logic you wanted in here, but basically, if there's a from address on there, if there's a phone number, you're going to print the content of the from and whatever the text message was in the console, and then you're going to do the same thing in the LCD. And so we basically have like set cursor 0, 0. So this is the top, and then this is the next line down, and it's going to go from the very beginning. So yeah, that's literally all the code for our pager, except for our loop. Can anybody guess what our loop is going to do? What do you think? Bianca, Alex, chat, what do you think the loop is for?
Anyone in chat? Anyone want to go? I'll give it a little, we'll put a little Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. So I think that you just defined the function to print something, but you haven't called it from anywhere. So I think the loop is going to be listening for the WebSocket and then calling that function.
Yeah. Absolutely. So basically, it's listening.
You sounded like a radio. Listening.
We're on the radio, Bianca.
You're just listening.
Yeah. So this is our program. And yeah, so basically you're absolutely right. This loop is going to be constantly listening. And so it's going to be constantly listening on WebSockets. You can see here, you've got like this polling thing that I was talking about before. Ultimately, like WebSockets are kind of like polling all the time when you're using an Arduino, just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's our entire program. Now, what we need to do now is we need to plug in our board. And in just a second, after I plug it in, I'm going to change where my camera is pointing. And Just make sure that that's working. So it's working now.
Where are you plugging in your Arduino?
I just plugged it in to my laptop, to my work laptop. Okay. But I need to change my sketch to one that I know for sure is working. Let me just save this one. File, save. Things will go terribly awry if I don't do this. So I feel like I'm making the right choice. File, open recent, pusher pager. Is it going to open pusher pager? Oh, pusher pager's already open. That's why. Close that. Pusher pager is already open, and it was in dark mode. All right.
Or you could do pager pusher, and then it's like you're pushing pagers on people.
Pushing pagers, pager pusher. This is like a tongue twister. Okay, so I'm going to move my camera, and I've got this like handy dandy little setup here. You'll get to see my desk, my brand new desk setup.
Oh, I see a little bit of a Rode.
Yeah, there is.
Rodecaster.
I will say that I am very lucky. The people that are here set me up with some awesome gear that I'm gonna someday understand.
I'm gonna solo you here, so we just are seeing your thing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try and get it as close as I possibly can. Ooh, there we go. Okay,
wow.
So this is our LCD, and there's nothing on our LCD right now, right?
Nope.
So what we're gonna do is, Alex, can you pull up my my screen share again?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So I think that I've got this here. I'm not going to dox myself at all. Okay, so this is our module, and you can see here that I have this this thing.
It's a little small, so if you want to zoom in again, that'd be great.
Let me zoom in here. So let's go zoomy.
That's great.
So this is the same code, and you'll see here now I've got this sort of like green highlighted USB serial here. That's saying that my my device is connected here. And then what's great about Arduino is you can actually run a verify. This makes sure that all your code is like gonna work and function on this device. And so I'm gonna run this verify. It'll do it without uploading anything, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna cancel that because it'll do the same thing when you upload. But if you did this when you uploaded, it would just error out. And so Alex, can you go back over and just show the Arduino now? Because basically it's just gonna do this and then show some upload stuff. So it's compiling the sketch. It does take a minute, so we can vamp while that is happening.
It's yeah, I feel like I missed the days of like code compiling, loading. Like we don't do that much anymore. Everything's so much faster now that like we're I think we've lost that muscle of like, what do you do while your code's compiling?
Absolutely.
I feel like there's this epic XKCD comic where like two people are like running on like rolly desk chairs and sword fighting because the code's compiling.
And I'm gonna try and change the saturation. Maybe I'll reset this now, but you're gonna see some stuff start to come up on the screen because it's uploading right now.
Oh, I see a little dot.
All right, so that means that stuff is uploading.
Okay.
It's at 24%. Optimize brightness. No. Auto white balance. We're just going to leave that. I think you'll still be able to see it. It's just not going to be super clear. You're going to have to tell me.
I see connecting to Wi-Fi. Connected to Wi-Fi. WebSocket connected.
Okay.
Cool. We're getting some stuff.
All right. So was that easy to see? That seemed like it was harder to see.
Yeah, but it's fine. We got it. I think we're good enough.
So that did all the steps. So it's connected everywhere that we want it to be connected. Mm-hmm. So now we've got to send a text message through. So I'm going to go, just leave it up on there for a second. I'm going to go to my dev. I need to grab whatever this phone number is on the Twilio console because I don't even remember what text message number it is. Andrewilio, great name for my personal account. Phone numbers, manage, active numbers. All right, so my pager number is this one. So I'm going to send a text message now over to my pager in dev phone. And what are we going to say? What message should we send through to here?
I mean, classic, ahoy world.
Ahoy world.
Or ahoy Andrew.
Ahoy Andrew.
It definitely should include Andrew somewhere. I was just go Andrew.
All right. Oh, there we go. I can make it a little bit darker. That might actually work better. That's good. Okay, we're going to send this message, and I'm going to pray that this actually worked. We're going to see what happened. It's going through the flow. Did things happen? Is it sending? What's going on?
Did you get a response from Twilio or no?
Not yet, but we're going to give it a second. This is exactly the point that you are expecting for things to go wrong.
Of course.
And they do, but that's okay because we're going to troubleshoot. We got the time. I wonder if I can text from the real phone.
I don't think that's, is that the right number? I think you're sending to the, I have a weird feeling that you're not hitting the right number because I remember it was like a 77 something number for the flow.
Oh, you're right. Yes. So I just texted myself.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. This is why you need to label your numbers, everybody. All right. So
the numbers.
I'm going to go back over to my dev phone.
Whoopsies, not me. We don't need me. Sorry.
All right.
No,
you're good. Oh, we lost Alex altogether. He pulled himself off. So
I'm here. That's my bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
I'm hitting the wrong buttons.
Here's the number. And now I'm going to go, ahoy, Andrew. Send that message. All right. And now, if everything is working. Did we see it there?
Oh,
yes, we see it. Ahoy, Andrew.
I even see a number.
We got it. That's your Twilio number.
Oh, here we go.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
you did it.
What I'd like someone on chat to do right now. You can go ahead and text that message. Send a message to that number 1-778-770-5408. If you want to try, I don't actually know if this will work, but you should get.
Here, I'll pull the number up so it's easier for people to see.
Yeah.
There we go. So it's that number there.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to cancel this number afterwards, but
no, we'll do something fun with it, and then if anyone watches the stream, they'll get to see this.
And so your message. So if you put up the pager on there and somebody texts that number, their message should show up when it appears.
But be careful, if you text that number, it's going to show your personal number. So
it is, yeah.
If you don't want to do that, don't do that.
Yeah. We're gonna see.
Basically.
All right. Is anybody? Oh, there we go. Hi from Texas. Can you pull up the Arduino again, Alex?
Hello from Texas.
Will you cover the person's
cover
phone number?
The message. Yeah, there we go.
A little lower, yeah. There you go. Good enough.
Okay.
Hi from Texas. There we go.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, there we go. And so this has absolutely no memory, but I'm gonna send another message to myself just to clear that off. So I'll say another ahoy, Bianca and Alex.
Yay.
Beyonce, sorry. Bianca and Alex. Okay, send. And then that'll repopulate this message in just a second. All right. And so you can see here.
Yay.
You can't actually see Alex.
No, it doesn't scroll.
It does not scroll. And that's
updates that we can make.
Updates we could make, but it's also okay because I know that I received a text message from that number and it said something. So maybe I would just text them back, right?
Yeah.
To find out more. Maybe you don't always need the full message. It's a notification.
No. You could always just text them back and see what the message was. And
And
awesome.
Do you want to pull up my screen again?
Yeah.
Just so that people can see. So you can see here the message was received is also showing up on my phone, and whoever texted before should also have seen that on their device. So I think that's. I'm going to move my camera back up to me. But we actually got it functionally working on stream. I'm blown away that actually worked.
That did work.
Within time.
Within time, I will say my advice is going to be surprising to you. If I was doing this, and especially if I was writing a blog post, and we can talk about this, I wouldn't use Studio because Studio is great when there's multiple back and forths and you need to manage state. But when a message comes in, you're just sending a response based on that message specifically. You can do it all in the function. So in the function, you could have responded in the error or the not error, and then you could have had one less piece to communicate. So. In a blog post, we'll work out together. But hopefully this blog post will come out soon and everyone will see it. But Andrew, thank you so much for joining us on stream and doing that awesome demo. That's so good. We love it.
Thank you for having me.
How does it feel?
I was stressed. I was stressing about this. I'll be honest with you. I was like, if the first demo doesn't work, things won't. It doesn't set a great precedent. But I feel good. Your energy was awesome. Chat's energy was awesome. All of the things aligned. And I love we had some audience participation too. Like, we got some folks sending some messages through. Thank you for that, chat, and thank you, Alex and Bianca, for just being amazing and for having me on the stream.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew. We hope and we're sure that we're going to see a lot more of you on this stream and other streams and across all of the Twilio webinars and all the other stuff. So, you're stuck with us now.
Basically. But yes, Andrew, it was so wonderful to have you. We're also very happy to have you here at Twilio. I'm just this is going to be lots of building, lots of creating, lots of just tinkering. But yeah, super excited to have you on stream. Also, it was very great to just have you share more about yourself. But yeah, we hope to see y'all next week. Next week we have oh my gosh, why am I forgetting?
It's going to be, I'm so excited for next week. Next week we have Vinny, who is on the Twilio Alpha team. He's a really super into AI. He builds a bunch of AI stuff. So it's a really, really talented developer, been at Twilio for a while. And AI and security. So he's going to come and talk about AI and security, and specifically about OWASP, which is like how do you build secure tools with AI? How do you build AI securely? And he helped put that together. So we're going to be talking about AI. We're going to be talking about AI and security. How do you build secure AI apps? I'm actually so excited for him to come on. It's going to be a really, really good and probably pretty deep conversation too. So join us next week, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, Tuesdays, for our next stream with Vinny on AI and security.
All right. See you then.
Bye.